Okay. Hey, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I know it is 11 a.m. Eastern, just right on time. Um, we do have a lot of ground to cover, so I am just going to go ahead and get started. Today's webinar is just in regards to just mastering interactive and fast dashboards in hopes to increase user adoption on ClicData. Before we get into its contents, first things first, just want to do an audio and video check, make sure everyone can see me and hear me just fine. If there's any concerns, please raise it with my moderator, Ben, who is alongside with me today. Okay. Okay, looks good. No concerns, at least so far. But at any point, just let Ben know and we can, I can go ahead and look into it. Um, for this webinar, any questions you may have, post them on the chat. Ben will moderate them, pass them forward to me. And just know that this webinar is also recorded just for future reference in case you miss it or if you want to look back on it, it will be posted online. Just a quick intro about myself. So I do see a lot of familiar names in the chat, and it's great to hear from all of you. Just to, if you do not know me or if you're not familiar with who I am the customer success lead of ClicData in the North America region. So I've been with ClicData for about 7 years now, known as one of the product experts with the company. So I've worked with a lot of you in terms of figuring out dashboard issues, data issues, and other miscellaneous stuff involving the platform. So um, that's just a quick intro about me there. And so for today's agenda, we do have two main topics. So one is methods to increase engagement and adoption through your dashboards. And then the second section, which is the more technical section, I'd say, is the use of LiveLink tokens, which I personally feel is underutilized. And I do think today's webinar will provide some inspiration on how to enhance the implementation of your dashboards. And so, starting with the first topic, there's two main categories. So, design and implementation. And these are sort of two pieces of the puzzle to really get your end users engaged, get them liking your dashboards and using them and not getting frustrated. So, we're going to go through 6 key points on designing a good dashboard. They are listed here. I will go through each one in detail with some examples. So the first one is less is more. So when you're designing a dashboard, you want to make sure that you don't overcrowd the dashboard. I have seen dashboards that do have a large number of widgets, and that's actually something that is discouraging to look at, especially if you're an end user who's working with an exploratory dashboard. Exploratory meaning that it's a dashboard where you are supposed to sort of take your time with it, play around, explore the data. You do want to make sure that it's not overcrowded. Taking the example from the left here, this is a traffic dashboard. Let's say there's a lot of widgets all across the board. Quite overwhelming, especially if you're looking at it for the first time. However, there are exceptions to this because there are industries like, traffic, where you do need all these indicators at once. And, you can't really miss a beat, especially in terms of live data. However, if time is more of a luxury in a sense where you can spend your time with a dashboard, having less widgets at once is a good place to start. If you do need more indicators or charts or widgets, then you can always create multiple dashboards and then create interactions to jump from dashboard A to dashboard B to C, so on, so forth. Using several ClicData features. One is, a button. If you're familiar with that, a button widget can jump from dashboard to dashboard. Alternatively, you do have the binders, which actually puts dashboards in a tabular format, so you can just easily jump from and to dashboards at ease. The next one is choosing the right visualization. So I know what I'm showing you here, it may be a drastic example, but hopefully you'll get the point after seeing this. Well, on the left chart, we do have a pie chart of cookie market shares. You'll see there's plenty of slices in the pie, the slices being more or less the same. But to be honest, just looking at that, it is quite hard to digest, meaning that it is quite difficult to tell which categories are larger than one another just based off of the slices of the pie. If I look hard enough, of course, I'll be able to see which ones are larger than the others. But why make that complicated, right? We do have better options to sort of show that visualization. And so this is where I have this bar chart on the right. You'll see it's the exact same data, exact same numbers. However, with the bar chart in this case, we are able to sort it in descending order. And just through, a human psychology perspective, when we first look at this, the first thing we're going to look at is the very first category, right? Like it's like as if you're reading a book where you're reading in a Z pattern. The same thing can be said about bar charts. And so in this visualization, in this context, where we want to see all of the market shares for each cookie type in this case, then a bar chart is a more effective option compared to a pie chart. But that leads me to the next, our first poll question for today's webinar. True or false? Pie charts are a poor choice in a professional dashboard. Yeah, so we will have about 15 more seconds left. Okay. I think we have 74% of votes, but we can go ahead. And the answer is actually false. Reason being is because pie charts are quite effective in emphasizing the largest category or categories, and also great for an explanatory analysis. So that means, if you're trying to get a point across through a dashboard, right, saying that, okay, hey, these four pie chart, these four categories take up almost 75% of the pie. This is very important. Whereas an exploratory analysis is where we just sort of throw visualizations at you, and it's up to you to sort of play around and get your own insights from that visualization. So there is a use case for pie charts, just not in the same context as this one here. So the next design concept is to implement a hierarchy on your dashboards. So you do want structure, and the first thing I will say is to start big picture. Big picture meaning just to use widgets that give a quick idea as to what happened with your business. And so effective widgets that are number indicators to just show you a flat number to say, okay, hey, here's my revenue for the past month. Another widget type is bullet charts that can be associated with number indicators, as you can see in this example here. And bullet charts are very effective because it shows you where you are relative to any potential targets that you're trying to meet. And then after you start big picture, you can descend into small picture. So small picture being, you take these numbers from the big picture and you break it down by categories. And so you see here on this example dashboard, on the sort of right side and the bottom, we do have breakdowns of those numbers through several categories. And yeah, it's just a way to provide detail as to not only what happened, but where it happened. And so hopefully that sort of helps in sort of digesting that information if you are an end user, sort of scanning through the dashboard from top to bottom, or left in a Z pattern in this case. The next thing is to implement filters. So here's another example dashboard that I'd like to sort of show off. But example, filters allow the dashboard to be dynamic. So of course, when an end user goes on your dashboard, they have these filters here to play around with, and allows everyone to get their own findings from an exploratory dashboard. So, quick question here. This is the second question in the poll. How many filters are too many for your users to handle? I have seen dashboards with a lot of filters, and I've seen dashboards with little. But what would you say is the sweet spot to you? There's no right or wrong answer. I do think it is just it is preference at the end of the day, but it is interesting to hear your thoughts. So it doesn't seem like 7+ filters is taking the lead here. So that's very interesting. It's good to hear. Okay. 7+. Wow. And so moving on, the next point is to make your dashboard actionable. And so going back to the bullet chart widget, that makes for a very good widget to show actionable insights. So for example, if your revenue figures aren't by your target yet, that's a clear indication that there is work to do. Alternative to the bullet chart, I also have a number indicator on the bottom left, which shows you percent changes. One is relative to your target, similar to the bullet chart, and one is compared to your previous period. One other cool thing is the use of symbols here. So the symbols with the ups and the downs, and where we also apply conditional formatting to just quickly show you if something's going in the right direction or something's going in the wrong direction. And so the use of colors in this case makes for an effective use of showing you where the problem areas are in your business. And on the right side, we have a more granular breakdown, revenue forecast versus budget. You'll see that in the percent column in this table, we've applied conditional formatting uh, to show you if that corresponding row is a good performer or a bad performer, and as well as throw in some icons on the right side just to easily show you which categories in this case of this table are problem areas, or which ones are good areas, or which ones are we're not sure yet, but let's keep an eye on it, so in case something does change in the future. And the very last thing is performance optimization. So this one, if there's one key thing to take away from the design phase, it's likely this one. Reason being is because I've seen many dashboards which have beautiful dashboards, but are, I would say, maybe not optimized. And so the last thing you want is you create a very beautiful dashboard, and then at the end you try to view it or you send it to your end users and it's sluggish. That's something we don't want. And so the first thing in terms of performance optimization is to not use columns as filters that contain too many distinct values. And so in this simple example where I have a filter panel and a chart connected to that filter panel directly, we have a customer ID column which contains 9,000 distinct values. And so when this dashboard loads for the first time, it does take 8 seconds to load. However, if I do the exact same thing, just remove the customer ID column from the filter panel, you'll see I shaved about 4.5 seconds off loading time. And so that's 3.5 seconds total. And to take things one step further, we have a feature available called conditional filters. So this is where you change the default selection from all selection to no selection. And then in your widget filters, you tweak the toggle so that it is orange instead of green. And so what this means is that if that filter, so let's say country, for example, it looks at the country drop-down list, and if there's nothing selected, then that filter is ignored. And so by doing this, we actually shave a total of 5.2 seconds off loading time, which I think is much more pleasant for end users, especially from them having to wait that amount of time every time the dashboard loads. And so as to why they're faster, just consider this, right? Where without conditional filtering, we're doing a SQL query in the back end, and we're injecting these complex where clauses for the dashboard to sort of compute. With conditional filtering, since those filters are ignored, we're saving ourselves time and resources from having to do that heavy lifting of the where clause. And so that's where the performance gains actually comes from. So the third question in today's poll is, what is your target load time for your dashboards? I've seen dashboards that take even longer than 10 seconds to load, but just for the sake of conversation here, what would your ideal loading times be when you create a dashboard and implement it? So I do see less than 3 seconds taking the majority of the votes, and of course, right, who wants to wait 10 seconds or even longer? Um, Definitely, performance optimization is an important aspect. I would say gets overlooked, um, and so yeah, that's good to hear. And so that concludes the design phase, and now we are in the implementation phase. So you have a beautiful dashboard, performs well, and now you're ready to roll this out to your end users. Just to quickly talk about our implementation types, I would say we can categorize it into two categories. One is active implementation, where we actively send dashboards out to our end users. And so, in the context of ClicData, this can be dashboards or binders being sent out through a schedule. And then we have passive, where we have dashboards just um, they're ready and they're live, and we want users to come in to view the dashboard. So think of it as like inbound traffic in a sense. Examples of these are the dashboard viewer. So if a user logs in through the ClicData platform and then sees dashboards on their homepage, we'll call that the viewer. And then we also have LiveLinks, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. The reason it's highlighted in green is because we are talking about LiveLinks for the rest of this presentation, just to go in a little more detail on its capabilities, in hopes that it'll give you some ideas on how to implement this further in your day-to-day use case. But just to talk about LiveLink, just real quick here. So it is a standalone HTML link of the dashboard. So it is hosted outside of the ClicData platform and the account. And so in terms of a live link, there we do have security measures on it, or we can implement security measures on it rather. But the first method is for a public live link. So it means that anyone with the link can access it. There's no security imposed on it by any means. The second method is password protected. So if a user opens that dashboard, they'll be prompted to enter the correct password in order to view its contents. And the last and most secure is private protected. So this one relies on two requirements for the user to access its contents. One is that the user does need to have a user license on the account, of course, and they also need security access from the dashboard owner in order to access its content. So this is the most secure way, which we will be sort of going into more detail later on in this webinar. But do note, because live links are a standalone HTML link, they can be embedded or used as is, but they can be embedded to your own company's website if you have one, and to blend in, and help centralize everything into one single sort of domain. So the thing with private live links is that it does require you to log in, right? Chances are, if you do have your own company portal, you are also enforcing your users to log in through there as well. So a good use case here would be like, say you had a WordPress website, you have a user directory on that WordPress website, and your users are logging in. At the same time, you want to embed our dashboards into your WordPress website, but keep it secure. Normally, that would mean that your users would have to log in through your WordPress website, open the corresponding page to load the embedded dashboard, but then have to log in a second time, right? But let's say we don't want that, right? Because it doesn't yield a seamless user experience. What can we do then? And the answer is LiveLink tokens. So what is a LiveLink token, you may ask? It serves as a encrypted string, so it's encoded using your user credentials, and then passed at the end of the LiveLink URL. And so this is mostly done in the back end of things. So if you do have WordPress, going back to that example, and if you're a web developer, chances are you can incorporate a JavaScript script in the back end to call ClicData's API, get the LiveLink token, inject it into the embedded URL, and have that respond to the user who's currently logged in. And so this yields a seamless and personalized experience, assuming your dashboard is parameterized, which I will sort of show you in a bit. But yeah, this is just a more technical breakdown on how LiveLink tokens are utilized. Yeah, I won't go into too much detail here because we will be doing a live demo on how this works and how to use LiveLink tokens. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Ben, just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. So maybe before I go into the insomnia section, I will show you the use case that I have here. Okay, so I do have a dashboard. Right now, it's not responsive to any user who's logged in. I will inject the LiveLink token in a bit, but the goal here is to have two different users who manage different regions. So in this case, it's Europe, Middle East, and Africa. That's one region. And the other region is Latin America. Furthermore, we want to ensure that confidentiality between these two users is in place. So that meaning that if let's say I manage the Latin America region, I cannot see these other two regions, and vice versa. So I do have two users here, and I'll show you their parameters just so that you can see how they're set up. So I have client 1 and client 2. If I go to parameters, you'll see here, client 1 has the Europe, Middle East, Middle East and Africa region. Client 2 has the Latin America region. Okay, so the goal here is that when these two users log in, this dashboard will be pre-filtered and only filtered for their corresponding regions. To start, I do need to get the live link for my dashboard here. Let's go ahead and save that. Okay, so now I'm switching gears to Insomnia. Insomnia is a testing API testing platform. If you've used Postman in the past, it's very similar to that. But I have an API call set up here. This is the endpoint for LiveLink tokens specifically. You'll see that over here, I have the user ID for client 1. Over here, I have the user ID for client 2. You'll see here, I do have some parameters set up. I do have a body. This is the JSON that gets sent to our API. This one is the expiration period in seconds. So this is 1 hour. After that 1 hour mark, the LiveLink session will expire and this call will have to be redone. And I do have OAuth 2 authentication methods in place. However, the authentication method is up to you. Of course, it's your preference and what you find easiest or most secure. But I'm going to go ahead and send this for client 1. So when I go ahead and send this request, no authorization method is required. Let me go and fetch that token, try it again. Okay. So I sent this request and I have a token in the backend here. Okay. What I'm going to do is go ahead and copy that. And then in a new tab, let's go and get the URL. And so as I mentioned earlier, it does get passed at the end as a parameter like this. So LiveLink token space the token. Let's give this a shot. And so as you can see, when this dashboard loads, I'm only seeing Europe, Middle East, and Africa as a selected region. If I drop this down, I can see other regions here, which is great. So this means I am client one viewing this dashboard. I'm only seeing the region applicable to me and nothing else. And yeah, there are other filters in place here that I can play around with. If client one gets their own findings. Yeah, and so if I could do the same for client two, let's just switch gears here. Let's go ahead and send it. No, okay, I do need to refresh the token here. Let's copy that. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and go into a new session. Equals LiveLink token. And you'll see now I'm client two accessing the dashboard. And do note, I did bypass the login page, which is something that private LiveLinks always have. This time, because I'm passing that LiveLink token successfully, I bypassed the login page and I'm able to see the region that's only applicable to client two. Okay. And of course, you can, because again, it is a LiveLink, you can embed this to WordPress, you name it, whatever website you have, feel free to sort of go ahead and play around with that LiveLink tokens. And if there's any questions about that, I know it's on the technical side. You can get in touch with ClicData support. I'll be there to sort of help you out. I can definitely assist in sort of implementing this to your dashboards in hopes that more users will be engaged, and just have a centralized place as well for your users to see your dashboards. So that concludes the live demo. But last question here, and there's no right or wrong answer to this one, is what's one thing you can apply today from today's webinar to make your dashboards more engaging? Awesome. Okay. So do you see a lot of questions coming in? Is there a way we can see the answers? I'd like to see some of these answers, but I think, yeah, we are at the half-hour mark. So I'd like to thank everyone who joined today. It's been a pleasure. Maybe just to sort of wrap things up, I'd like to open the floor for any quick questions. Ben, if that's okay.
Yep. Yeah, we have a question from Richard. Is it better to use parameter or team for user? We have multiple users who are in the same team, so make it easier to manage.
Right. And so in your case, you have multiple users who are in the same team. I would say use team parameters, especially if every user on that team needs to see the same data. Right. So going back to that use case that I showed in my live demo, let's say all those users belong to the Latin America team. Then in that case, use team parameters because it serves as an all-in-one, or it's just a one-shot parameter setup for all users that exist on that team. And so when each user in that team accesses that dashboard and you're using LiveLink tokens or what have you, or even using the LiveLinks as is, they will see those dashboards pre-filtered.
Okay, let me check if we have all other questions. We already replied by Divial. Thanks, Divial.
Okay, that's good.
Any other question on the assembly, or someone is typing?
I do see one by Kyle. The verse target and verse previous is excellent. How do we implement those? Great. Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, those are a combination of multiple widgets. So you'll see, I don't know if I can go back to that slide, but just to quickly talk about it, it is a number indicator or multiple number indicators rather, and they're accompanied by symbol indicators. So I think that's the missing piece that we may have missed. So those are symbol indicators that you plug in a numerical value into there, and then you conditionally format that symbol based off its value. So you can say if it's negative, maybe I want to show a down arrow that's red, right? If it's positive, and then an up arrow that's green, or somewhere in between, right? The formatting is up to you, but it is a symbol indicator. So hopefully that was the one that that was the missing piece there. Okay, great. So I know we're 4 minutes over. I think it's safe to conclude the webinar today. If there's any questions, feel free to get in touch with support@clicdata.com. We can take the conversations there. But again, thank you all for attending today. It's been a pleasure, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.